My name is Emma. For a long time, I believed that rain followed me everywhere. I was 28 years old and lived alone in a small apartment in the city. Every morning, I woke up at 6, made a cup of coffee, and looked out of my window. Most days, the sky was gray. Sometimes it really rained, and sometimes the rain existed only inside my heart. 3 years earlier, my life had changed completely. I had been engaged to a man named Daniel. We planned our future together. We talked about getting married, buying a small house, and having children someday. I thought my life was perfect. Then one evening, Daniel called me. "I can't do this anymore, Emma," he said softly. At first, I thought he was joking. But he wasn't. He had fallen in love with someone else. I still remembered sitting on my bed after the call ended. Outside, rain hit my window again and again. I cried until morning. After that day, everything became difficult. I stopped meeting friends. I stopped visiting my favorite cafe. I smiled less and worried more. Even simple things, like listening to music or watching couples walk together, made my heart ache. People often said, "Time heals everything." I wanted to believe them. But 3 years later, I still carried the pain inside me. One rainy Friday evening, I left my office later than usual. The streets were shiny from the rain. People hurried home with umbrellas. I stood outside the building and sighed. Then I heard a voice beside me. "You'll get completely soaked." I turned around. A man stood there holding a dark blue umbrella. He looked about my age. His brown hair was slightly wet, and his eyes seemed kind. "I suppose I will," I answered. He smiled. "I can share." I almost said no. I usually avoided strangers. But the rain was getting heavier. "Thank you," I said quietly. We began walking together. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. Then he asked, "Long day?" "Nadad." "The longest." He laughed softly. "I understand. I think everyone is carrying something heavy." I looked at him. There was something familiar about his sadness. As we reached the bus stop, the rain suddenly became even stronger. Neither of us moved. We simply stood there, listening to the sound of the rain. Finally, he smiled and held out his hand. "I'm Noah." I looked at him for a second before shaking his hand. "I'm Emma." That moment know it. But sometimes, when life feels like endless rain, it quietly sends someone to stand beside you under an umbrella. The rain continued to fall heavily. Noah and I stood at the bus stop, listening to the water hitting the roof above us. Cars passed by their lights, shining on the wet road. For some reason, I did not feel uncomfortable. Usually, I disliked talking to strangers. I preferred keeping my thoughts to myself. But Noah seemed different. "So, Emma," he said with a small smile, "do you always forget your umbrella?" I laughed softly. "No, only on days when I already have too much on my mind." He nodded, as if he understood exactly what I meant. I think everyone has those days. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he pointed across the street. "There's a cafe over there. Would you like some coffee while we wait for the rain to become lighter?" I looked at him. I should have said no. I hardly knew him. Besides, I had spent years avoiding new people. It felt safer that way. If you never let anyone get close, nobody could hurt you. But something inside me wanted to say yes. Maybe it was the cold rain. Maybe it was loneliness. Or maybe it was the kindness in his eyes. Okay, I said. A few minutes later, we were sitting by the window of a small cafe. I ordered hot chocolate. Noah ordered coffee. Outside, the rain continued. Inside, the cafe felt warm and peaceful. So, he asked, "What do you do?" "I work in a publishing company." "Interesting. Do you enjoy it?" "Most days." He smiled. "Most days is good enough." I laughed. "What about you?" "I'm an architect." "That sounds exciting." Shrugged. "Sometimes. Mostly, it's meetings and paperwork." We both laughed. As we talked, I noticed something surprising. I was smiling. A happy smile. I could not remember the last time that had happened. Then Noah became quiet. He looked out of the window. "You know," he said softly, "I used to hate rainy days." I looked at him. "Why?" He took a deep breath. "Because I lost someone important during a storm." There was sadness in his voice. I suddenly realized that he understood pain too. Maybe that was why talking to him felt easy. I did not ask any questions. Instead, I simply said, "I'm sorry." He looked at me and smiled gently. "Thank you." Then he asked, "And you? What are you carrying that feels so heavy?" I stared at my cup. I had not spoken about Daniel in a very long time. Yet somehow, sitting beside Noah, with rain falling outside the window, I wanted to tell the truth. I looked up at him. "I once loved someone very much," I said quietly. "And when he left, I never really found my way back." Noah said nothing. He simply listened. And for the first time in 3 years, I felt that perhaps my story was not over yet. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. For a few seconds, I lay in bed, listening. Rain. I sat up and walked to the window. The sky was clear and blue. Sunlight filled the room, making everything look warmer. I smiled. Then I remembered the previous evening. The buzistopi, the cafe. Noah. I could still hear his voice and see his gentle smile. It felt strange. We had only met once, yet I kept thinking about him. I made myself a cup of coffee and sat by the window. Usually, Saturday mornings felt lonely. I would clean my apartment, watch television, and spend the day alone. But this morning felt different. For the first time in a long while, I was looking forward to the day. As I reached for my phone, I noticed something. A small piece of paper was inside my handbag. Unfolded it. It was a receipt from the cafe. On the back, someone had written, "It was nice meeting you, Emma. Maybe rainy days aren't so bad after all." Noah. And beneath, it was a phone number. I laughed softly. I did not know why, but seeing those words made my heart feel lighter. I stared at the number for several minutes. Should I send him a message? What if he was simply being polite? What if I was overthinking everything? I put my phone down. Then I picked it up again. Finally, I typed, "Good morning. This is Emma, the woman who forgot her umbrella." I looked at the message. Then I pressed send. Immediately, I regretted it. I placed my phone on the table and walked away. A few seconds later, my phone beeped. I hurried back. Good morning, Emma. I was hoping you would text me. I smiled. Then another message appeared. And for the record, I also forgot my umbrella yesterday. I just happened to leave one at the office. I laughed out loud. For some reason, that made him seem even more real. We spent the morning exchanging messages. Nothing important. We talked about our favorite books, favorite foods, and places we wanted to visit someday. Hours passed quickly. Around noon, another message appeared. Would you like to have lunch with me tomorrow? I stared at the screen. My heart suddenly beat faster. 3 years ago, I would have said yes, immediately. But the old pain inside me returned. What if I trusted someone again and got hurt again? I looked out of the window. The sun was shining brightly. Then I remembered something Noah had said. I think everyone is carrying something heavy. Maybe he was carrying something heavy too. Maybe we both were. I looked at my phone again. Then I smiled and typed, "Yes, I'd like that." A few seconds later, his reply came. "Great, and don't worry. I promised to bring an umbrella, just in case." I laughed again. Outside my window, the sky remained clear. And for the first time in years, my heart felt like the rain had finally started to stop. On Sunday morning, I stood in front of my wardrobe for nearly 20 minutes. I could not remember the last time I had been nervous about meeting someone. I finally chose a simple blue dress and tied my hair back. Looking in the mirror, I hardly recognized myself. I looked happy. At 1 o'clock, I arrived at a small restaurant near the city park. Noah was already there. He stood up when he saw me. "You came," he said with a smile. I laughed softly. Of course I came. For some reason, his smile made me feel comfortable. We ordered lunch and spent the next hour talking. We spoke about books, childhood memories, and our favorite places in the city. I learned that Noah loved photography and often spent weekends taking pictures of the sky. "I like sunsets," he said. "They remind me that endings can also be beautiful." I looked at him. There was sadness hidden behind his smile. I had noticed it before. This time, I decided to ask. "Noah," I said gently, "the other day you mentioned losing someone during a storm." He became quiet. For several seconds, he looked at his hands. Then he took a deep breath. It was my younger sister, Lily. I did not say anything. 5 years ago, she was coming home from university during a terrible storm. There was an accident. Pud. We were very close. She was my best friend. His voice became softer. I never got the chance to say goodbye. The pain in his eyes made my heart ache. "I am so sorry," I whispered. "Ginadad." For a long time, I blamed myself. I thought I should have protected her somehow. I understood that feeling. The feeling of carrying pain for years. The feeling of living with memories that never completely disappear. I looked at him. "I know what it's like to lose something important," I said. He mice. I told him about Daniel, about our engagement, about the phone call that changed everything, about the years I spent hiding from people and protecting my heart. When I finished, Noah simply listened. Then he said softly, "You know, Emma, I don't think you're broken." I looked at him. "I think you're someone who loved deeply and got hurt deeply." Tears filled my eyes. Nobody had ever said that to me before. For years, I believed something was wrong with me because I could not move on. Noah smiled gently. The fact that you're sitting here today means you're stronger than you think. I looked at him for a long moment. Outside the restaurant window, the afternoon sun shone brightly over the park. For the first time, I realized something important. Maybe healing did not happen all at once. Maybe it happened slowly. One conversation, one smile, one sunny day at a time. And as I sat across from Noah, I felt something inside me changing. The rain in my heart was becoming lighter. The weeks passed quietly. Noah and I continued meeting every weekend. Sometimes we had coffee. Sometimes we walked through the park. Other times, we simply sat on a bench and talked for hours. Little by little, he became an important part of my life. He never tried to fix my sadness. He never told me to forget the past. He simply stayed. And somehow, that was exactly what I needed. One Saturday evening, Noah invited me to watch the sunset at the hill overlooking the city. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink. The lights of the city slowly began to appear below us. "It's beautiful," I said. "It is," he replied. "This is my favorite place." We sat quietly for several minutes. Then Noah spoke. "You know, I used to come here after Lily died." I looked at him. I thought the pain would never end. He smiled gently. But one evening, I realized something. The sun always returns, even after the darkest storm. I looked at the sunset. The words touched my heart. Then he turned towards me. "And I think you've been waiting for your son to return too." Tears filled my eyes. Perhaps he was right. For 3 years, I had been living inside my sadness. I was breathing, working, and smiling occasionally, but I was not truly living. I was waiting for answers, waiting for the pain to disappear, waiting for the person I used to be. I looked at Noah. "You know something?" Softly. "What?" If I had not forgotten my umbrella that day, we would never have met. Laughed. Then I suppose that forgotten umbrella changed both our lives. I laughed too. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I looked up at the evening sky. There were no dark clouds, no rain, only soft light and endless colors. I suddenly realized something. I still remembered Daniel. I still appreciated the love we once shared. But the pain was gone. I no longer wished to return to the past. I no longer felt trapped by old memories. Instead, I felt grateful. Grateful for every lesson. Grateful for every tear. Grateful because those difficult years had led me here. Noah looked at me. "You seem different tonight." I smiled. "I think I finally understand something." What he said. I took a deep breath. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means allowing yourself to live again. Noah's eyes softened. "I think that's true." At that moment, a gentle breeze passed between us. I closed my eyes and smiled. For the first time in years, my heart felt peaceful. The storm inside me had ended. The endless gray sky had finally cleared. And as I sat beside Noah, watching the last light of day disappear beyond the city, I knew with complete certainty. The rain had finally stopped.